The moment I saw the two of them together, something inside me went silent. Some betrayals feel loud, like screaming, like breaking glass, like the slam of a door you didn't know was closing. But mine felt quiet, too quiet. It wasn't the kind of hurt that stole my breath. It was the kind that sat inside my chest, breathing with me. I remember that evening clearly, the dim lamp in the hallway, the soft humming of the refrigerator, the smell of leftover chai. I had just come home from work, tired but content. The house felt warm, lived in the way a home should. But even then, something felt off. My husband, Armin, was sitting on the couch, his phone in his hand, smiling. Not a polite smile, not a casual one. A soft smile. A smile reserved for someone who mattered. Someone he shouldn't have been smiling at like that. Before I could speak, he quickly locked his phone and acted like nothing happened. I pretended not to notice. Because sometimes, love makes you blind and sometimes it makes you pretend. Before everything shattered, my life felt ordinary but safe. I'm the older one, the responsible one. The daughter who stayed home when my mother fell sick. The sister who helped with homework, school fees, and emotional breakdowns. The woman who believed if she just loved enough, worked enough, tried enough, things would stay whole. My younger sister, Rita, was the opposite. She was soft laughter, bright eyeliner, loud music, someone who lived in the world like it owed her joy. Everyone adored her. I used to adore her. Even after I got married, she would visit often. She said my home felt calmer than hers, more peaceful. She said Armin made the best chai. And Armin, he treated her like a younger sister. Or that's what I told myself. We were close. Or maybe I was simply naive. I used to love evenings the most. After work, I would cook while Armin chopped vegetables or lays near the counter. The windows would be open, letting in the smell of wet soil after rain. We'd talk about work, about small things, about nothing at all. Our life wasn't perfect, but it was ours, or so I thought. The first shift was small, barely noticeable. The kind you brush away because confronting it feels heavier than ignoring it. Rita stopped calling me as often, but she called Armin. At first, it seemed harmless. She needed help with career choices, finances, practical advice, and Armin was good with those things. But slowly, conversations that used to happen in front of me began happening behind closed doors. Once I walked into the room and found them sitting close, too close, laughing at something on her phone. The way they looked at each other, there was a familiarity I couldn't name. I tried to shake the feeling off. Family. Their family. That's what I repeated to myself. Still, that night, I cried quietly into my pillow and I couldn't explain why. A few weeks later, I noticed Armin dressing differently. He started wearing cologne on weekdays, cologne he used to save for anniversaries or events. He kept his phone face down. Messages came late at night. His tone toward me shifted from warm to distracted. I asked him once gently, "Is something wrong?" He smiled, the kind of smile that had no warmth in it, and said, "No, you're just overthinking." Maybe I was, but doubt is a seed. Once planted, it grows quietly, steadily into something that takes over everything else. The night everything changed was a rainy Friday. Thunder rolled across the sky, and the streets outside were wet and glistening. I got home earlier than usual. Traffic had been surprisingly light. I remember humming softly as I placed my keys on the table, expecting to find Armin watching TV or working on his laptop. But the house was quiet. Too quiet. The kind of quiet that feels intentional. I walked down the hallway, following the faint murmur of voices, one deep, one soft, familiar. My heart began to beat differently, slower, heavier. The door to the guest room was almost closed, just a sliver of space left open. And through that space, I saw them, not in a compromising position, not tangled or exposed, just sitting together on the edge of the bed, their hands intertwined. But sometimes, the smallest touch is the loudest betrayal. Her thumb traced his knuckles in a way that wasn't casual, a motion of someone who cared, who knew him, who had done it before. And the look on his face, soft eyes, half smile, it wasn't the look a husband gives his wife's sister. It was the look a man gives a woman he wants. My breath hitched. My fingers trembled. And for the first time, I realized the silence wasn't empty. It was full of everything I wasn't seeing. Everything they weren't saying. Everything I wasn't ready to believe. I didn't walk into the room. I didn't scream. I did confront. I just stood there frozen with the sound of rain hitting the window like a warning. My sister noticed me first. Her hand slipped away from his so fast it almost looked innocent. Almost. Armin looked up, startled, guilt flickering in his eyes before he masked it behind a practiced calm. My voice came out quiet, too quiet. "What exactly is happening here?" Neither spoke. Silence answered before their words ever could. And in that small, heartbreaking moment, I knew. I wasn't losing just a husband, I was losing a sister. No matter how strong you think you are, nothing prepares you for the moment truth becomes undeniable. My hands were cold, my throat felt tight, but my voice somehow remained steady. "Answer me," I said again. Rita stood up first, tucking her hair behind her ear the way she always did when she was nervous. But this time, she wouldn't look at me. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. A sentence I had only heard in movies, never imagining it would one day be spoken to me. Armin finally stood too. His expression was controlled, too controlled, like he had practiced it. "We were just talking," he said. "You're misunderstanding." Maybe another woman would have screamed. Maybe she would have thrown something, demanded the truth, broken apart right there. But I just stared at them, because betrayal doesn't always come with fire. Sometimes it comes with numbness. "Talking," I repeated softly. "Hand-holding is talking now." Neither of them had an answer. Rita finally whispered, "Please don't make this dramatic." Something in me snapped. Not loudly, not visibly, but quietly, like a thread breaking inside fabric. I took a breath and forced myself to speak calmly. "Rita, go home." She hesitated, but Armin didn't. "Maybe we should all calm down," he said. The way he said "we," as if I had done something wrong, made my chest burn. I pointed at the door without raising my voice. "Leave." Maybe it was the tone, maybe it was the look in my eyes, but she went. And the moment the front door closed behind her, everything changed. Armin and I sat in the living room, not facing each other, just existing in the same space like strangers sharing an accident scene. The rain outside softened into a drizzle, and the ticking clock on the wall suddenly felt too loud. I finally asked the question I never wanted to ask. "How long?" His jaw tightened. "That's unfair," he muttered. I laughed, a short, hollow sound. "Unfair? Armin, I just saw you holding my sister's hand in our home on our bed." He rubbed his forehead like the situation was exhausting him. "It didn't mean anything." "Then why did you hide it?" Silence. A painful, telling silence. He exhaled sharply. "Fine, we've talked a few times. We got close, but it wasn't planned. You've been distant, busy, stressed. I didn't know how to talk to you anymore." There it was, the blame. Not on him, not on her, on me. I swallowed hard. "So while I was working late to support us, helping Rita apply for jobs, handling bills and family, and loving you, you were what? Confused, needing entertainment." He looked away. No defense meant everything. I stood slowly. My knees felt weak, my body heavy. "I need space." He nodded, relieved, as if the conversation was over, but something in me wasn't done. "Armin," I said, and he looked up. "Are you in love with her?" He hesitated just for a second, but sometimes 1 second contains all the truth in the world. "No," he finally said, but he said it too late. That night I couldn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen with the lights off, listening to the soft hum of the refrigerator and the distant sound of cars passing on wet roads. My tea went cold. So did something inside me. My wedding ring felt heavier than it ever had, like a weight meant to drag me down. My phone buzzed around midnight. Rita. At first, I wanted to ignore it, but curiosity, the cruel human kind, made me open her message. "I'm sorry, I never meant for this to happen." I stared at the text for a long time before responding. "If you were sorry, it wouldn't have happened." She replied instantly, almost as if she'd been waiting. "You don't understand. I didn't plan this. I fell for him without meaning to. We connect in ways you two don't." The words felt like ice on my skin. My hands trembled, not with fear, but with clarity. I typed slowly. "Does he feel the same?" She didn't answer right away. When she did, it was only one word. "Yes." My heart did not break loudly. It shattered quietly like a glass dropped onto carpet. No sound, just damage. Armin tried to act normal the following morning. He made breakfast. He asked if I slept okay. He avoided mentioning what happened. And I realized something. People don't hide what they regret. They hide what they want to keep. I watched him slice fruit, humming softly like he hadn't just torn our marriage apart. Like betrayal could be erased with routine. Finally, I spoke. "I know everything." His hand froze midair. "What?" I spoke to her. He swallowed. "What did she say? That you love her?" He looked panicked, not guilty. Panicked, like he feared losing something. And in that moment, I finally understood. He wasn't scared of losing me. He was scared of losing both of us. I stood. "You can stay here with your truth, but not with me." His eyes widened. "Where are you going?" "To build a life where I'm respected." He reached for my arm, and I stepped back. "For once," I whispered, "face the consequences of your choices." I didn't pack much, just enough to leave. The rest I could replace, but my self-worth, that needed saving now. As I walked out the door, the morning sun felt colder than the night rain. But the air felt free. I moved in with my mother for a while. It It felt strange being back in the house where I grew up, sleeping in the same room where I once dreamed about love, marriage, and happily ever after. Funny how childhood dreams never warn you about betrayal. My mother didn't ask many questions at first. She just placed a warm bowl of dal and rice in front of me and gently stroked my head. "Mothers," she whispered, "can feel storms before we see them." Her words made my eyes sting, but I forced myself not to cry. Not yet. For the first few days, I avoided my phone, avoided people, avoided myself. I lived in a strange silence, neither broken nor healed, just suspended. But silence doesn't stay empty for long. On the fourth day, my phone rang. Armin, I stared at his name glowing on the screen. My hands felt cold. For a moment, I considered ignoring it, but then I answered. His voice was soft, almost fragile. "Hi." I didn't respond. "I miss you," he continued. "The house feels empty without you." I inhaled slowly. "You should have thought of that before choosing someone else." There was a pause, then he said it. "Please come home, we can fix this." A bitter laugh escaped me. "Fix? Armin, you lied to me, you chose my sister, there's no fixing that." He exhaled shakily. "It wasn't supposed to happen, I just connected with her, I don't know how to explain it." "You already did," I said quietly. "You fell for someone else while married to me." His silence was loud. "Is she there with you?" I asked. "No." "Because she's scared," I said, "not sorry." He didn't argue. I ended the call, but when I set the phone down, my heart felt heavier. That evening, I found my mother folding laundry in the living room. She didn't look at me when she spoke. "You've been holding everything in." I swallowed. "I don't want to break." She smiled sadly. "Sometimes breaking is how you finally breathe." Her words were soft, but they pierced me. And right there in that small, familiar room, surrounded by folded clothes and quiet comfort, I cried. Not the loud kind, not the dramatic kind. Just silent tears, finally allowed to exist. My mother held me, not asking me to explain, not rushing the pain, just holding me the way she did when I was little and the world was too big. When the tears finally slowed, she spoke gently. "Love isn't proven by how long someone stays," she said. "Sometimes, love reveals itself when you see who leaves." And who remains. I took a slow breath, then another. And for the first time since everything happened, I felt a small shift inside me. Not healing, but beginning. But the world doesn't pause when your heart breaks. On the 8th day, my aunt called, and with one sentence, everything changed. "Beta, I saw Armin and Rita together at a restaurant." I closed my eyes, so they weren't hiding anymore, or maybe they no longer needed to. "Were they alone?" I asked. My aunt hesitated. Then they were holding hands. It didn't hurt the way the first time did. This time, it only confirmed what I already knew. Loyalty wasn't an accident, it was a choice, and neither of them chose me. 2 days later, my mother received a phone call from my father. He spoke to her for a long time. I stayed in the hallway, listening to small, muffled words, my name, Armin's name, Rita's name. When she hung up, she looked at me with steady, serious eyes. "He knows." My stomach tightened. "And?" "He wants everyone to come to the house on Sunday. No excuses." A family meeting. My heart raced, not from fear, but from clarity. This wasn't just my burden anymore. The truth was stepping into the light. Sunday arrived quietly. I wore a simple white kurta, peaceful, clean, unburdened. My mother drove us to my parents' house. My hands were folded tightly in my lap, but my breathing was calm. Armin's car was already parked outside. So was Rita's. I stepped out slowly. And in the driveway, under the gentle afternoon sun, our eyes met. Hers were nervous, his were guilty. I didn't look away. I walked past them both without a word. Inside, my father sat in the living room, hands folded, face unreadable. Everyone took a seat. The silence was heavy. My father finally spoke. "Tell me," he said, voice controlled, "what exactly is happening between you three?" Neither Rita nor Armin spoke. So I did, not with anger, not with tears, just truth. I found them together, emotionally involved, and they continued after I confronted them. My mother looked down. My father inhaled slowly, then turned to Rita. "Is this true?" Rita looked at her hands, her voice trembling. "I didn't plan it, it just happened. We were close, we understand each other." My father's jaw tightened. "And you betrayed your sister." Rita's eyes filled with tears. "I never meant to hurt her." My father looked at Armin next. "And you? You gave vows to one daughter and loyalty to another." Armin swallowed, his voice barely audible. "I made mistakes." My father leaned forward. "Not mistakes, choices." Those words hit the room like thunder. No shouting, no chaos, just truth. Finally, my father turned to me. "What do you want?" For the first time in weeks, the answer was clear. "I want a divorce." The room froze. Armin looked up sharply. "Wait," but I raised a hand. "No, you already made your decision. Now I'm making mine." My voice didn't shake. My heart didn't either. My father nodded slowly. Then you have my full support. My mother reached for my hand. And in that moment, for the first time since everything shattered, I felt aligned with myself. I wasn't losing a marriage. I was reclaiming my life. After the family meeting, everything moved quickly, almost faster than I was emotionally prepared for. But sometimes momentum is the only thing that keeps a person from slipping back into old wounds. My father arranged a meeting with a lawyer the following week. When I walked into the dimly lit office with shelves full of files and the faint smell of old paper and coffee, something inside me shifted. This time, I wasn't a wife begging to be chosen. I was a woman choosing herself. The lawyer asked detailed questions, and I answered each one steadily. There were moments where my voice trembled, not from doubt, but from the sheer weight of speaking truths I once buried. When he finished writing, he looked at me with calm sincerity. "You're doing the right thing," he said. I didn't respond aloud, but inside a small voice whispered, "Finally." Meanwhile, life outside continued with its quiet uneasiness. My phone buzzed often, missed calls, unread messages, mostly from Armin. He seemed to shift between denial, anger, and desperation, like someone still trying to control a story he no longer had power over. One night he called again. Against better judgment, I answered. His voice was filled with frustration. "So it's really happening, you're divorcing me," I spoke quietly. "You already divorced me the moment you chose my sister." He scoffed. "It wasn't a choice, things just got complicated." "No," I replied, steady and calm. "Affairs aren't accidents, they're repeated decisions." Silence. Then he said something that might have broken me weeks ago, but now only revealed the truth behind his intentions. "I never thought you'd actually leave." I closed my eyes. There it was. The admission he didn't mean to say, not remorse, not love, but entitlement. I let the silence stretch before responding softly. "That's the mistake people make when they believe loyalty is endless." Then I hung up. And this time, the tears didn't come. Rita avoided me. She stopped coming to family gatherings, stopped answering calls, stopped showing her face at my parents' home. My mother told me once while folding laundry, "She thinks silence will erase the guilt." I shook my head. No. Silence just makes the truth echo louder. Then, about a month later, life served another twist. I went to the grocery store one evening. It was early, the air was cool, and the sky carried soft summer light fading into blue-gray dusk. As I reached for a carton of milk, I heard a voice behind me. Tara!" I turned. And there she was, Rita. Her face was pale, eyes tired, lips trembling. For a long second, we just stared at each other, two sisters with the same childhood, the same home, the same memories, but no longer the same bond. She opened her mouth, but no words came, so I spoke first. "You don't have to explain." Her eyes widened with relief, then guilt, but I continued. "What you did, it hurt, and it broke something between us that won't go back to what it was." Her lower lip quivered. "I know," she whispered. "I ruined everything." I shook my head gently. "No. You ruined your integrity. What we shared, sisterhood, that's something I never betrayed." She blinked hard, tears slipping down her face. "I miss you," she said weakly. A soft ache formed in my chest, not for her, but for the childhood version of her. The little girl who held my hand on the first day of school. The teenager who cried on my lap after her first heartbreak. But the woman standing in front of me now was a stranger, so I told her the truth. "I don't miss who you became. But I remember who you were." Her knees seemed to weaken. People around us continued shopping, unaware that a relationship was breaking quietly beside them. She finally whispered, "Will you ever forgive me?" I took a slow breath. Forgiveness wasn't a gift she earned. It was a piece I would eventually give myself, so I answered honestly, "Not today." Her shoulders slumped, but she nodded. "And Armin?" she asked softly, almost as if afraid of the answer. I looked her directly in the eyes. "He's your responsibility now," I said. "Not my burden." Her face went pale. She opened her mouth to speak, but nothing came because she knew. She wasn't his first choice. She was his escape, and escapes rarely become homes. That night, after returning to my mother's house, I sat in the courtyard with a warm cup of tea. The silence felt peaceful, not empty. For the first time, I wasn't replaying memories or rewriting conversations in my mind. I was simply present. I heard the distant sound of children playing, the rustle of leaves, the soft hum of life continuing, not waiting for me, but walking alongside me. I closed my eyes and whispered into the quiet, "I'm ready to move forward." And somehow I knew I meant it. I remember sitting in my car outside that cafe, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. My heart was beating so loudly it felt like the whole street could hear it. I kept asking myself, what if I'm overthinking? What if it's someone who just looks like me? But deep inside, I already knew the truth. So I took a breath, pushed the door open, and walked toward the entrance. The moment I stepped inside, the world stopped. There he was, my ex, laughing, smiling, acting like everything was perfect. And right next to him sat her, the girl who looked like a rewritten version of me. Same hairstyle, same mole near the lip, same kind of dress I used to wear because he said it looked perfect. It was like watching a movie of my life but recast with a replacement. He saw me first. His face dropped, shock, fear, guilt all at once. She turned to look at me and I swear her smile didn't fade. Not even a little, like she already knew who I was, like this was planned, expected. That smile wasn't friendliness, it was confidence, possession, victory. I walked closer, refusing to break eye contact. "So," I said quietly but firmly, "you finally found someone to replace me." He swallowed hard, his voice cracked. "It's not what you think," I laughed, bitter and tired. "Oh really? Because it looks exactly like what I think." She finally spoke, her voice soft, rehearsed, controlled. "He didn't replace you," she said. "He just found the better version." Those words hit harder than any betrayal, any breakup, any lie, because that wasn't coincidence. That was intentional, that was personal, that was psychological. And in that moment, I stopped hurting. I stopped crying. I stopped wondering why I wasn't enough. Because I finally understood something. He never wanted love, he wanted control. And she wasn't a soulmate, she was a copy he could own. I straightened my back, smiled slightly, and whispered, "No one can replace me, not even someone trained to." Then I walked away, not because I was weak, but because I finally knew my worth. But that day wasn't the end. It was only the beginning, because a week later, she contacted me, and what she told me changed everything. A week after that cafe confrontation, I thought the worst was behind me. I blocked his number, deleted our old photos, started rebuilding my life piece by shattered piece. But then one night at 2:17 a.m., a message appeared from an unknown number. "We need to talk. He's not who you think, and I'm not who I told him I was." My blood froze. I already knew it was her. I ignored it at first. I wasn't ready for another emotional hurricane. But then another message came. "Please, I'm in danger." Danger. That word hit differently. So against my better judgment, I replied, "Where are you?" She sent a location, a local park. Cold, empty, dark. Every part of me screamed, "Don't go," but curiosity, fear, and instinct pushed me toward the car. When I arrived, she was sitting alone on a bench under a broken streetlight like a ghost waiting to be seen. She wasn't glamorous like the cafe version of her. Her mascara was smudged. Her hands were trembling, and she kept looking over her shoulder like someone was watching. When she saw me, relief washed over her face. "You came," she whispered. I nodded, keeping distance. "Say whatever you need to say," I replied. She took a shaky breath. "I need you to understand, I didn't meet him by accident. I didn't fall in love. I didn't even choose him." I frowned. "What do you mean?" She looked up, her voice barely audible. "He found me. He paid me to become you." I felt the world tilt. Everything, every suspicion, every fear, every moment that felt wrong suddenly made horrifying sense. She continued, "He showed me pictures of you, videos, your social media, your clothes, your hairstyle, even the way you smile." Her voice cracked. "I didn't know what the plan was at first. I just needed the money. But when he asked me to start copying your voice, your handwriting, your mannerisms," she shivered, "I realized he wasn't trying to replace you." Her eyes lifted slowly, meeting mine. "He was trying to erase you." My breath hitched. "Erase me?" Before I could ask anything else, she suddenly grabbed my wrist, her grip desperate, terrified. "You don't understand," she whispered, her eyes wide. "He's not done with you." My heart stopped. Then she said the last sentence I ever expected to hear. "He wants you back, even if he has to break both of us to make it happen." And just then, we both heard footsteps. Slow, heavy, deliberate. Coming from behind us. She froze, I froze, because we both knew he found us. The footsteps grew louder, slow, steady, and intentional, not rushed, not confused. He knew exactly where we were. She squeezed my wrist harder, her breath sharp and panicked. "Don't turn around," she whispered. But it was too late. My body reacted before my mind could stop it. I turned. There he was, standing a few feet away, calm, focused. Like this wasn't a confrontation, but a scene he had been waiting to continue. His eyes scanned us first, her, then me. No anger, no surprise, just possession, as if we were objects he owned. "I was wondering when you two would finally talk," he said, his tone cold and eerily controlled. She stepped back, but he raised a hand slightly. "Don't," he warned her softly. "Not one more step." His voice wasn't loud, but it had the kind of quiet threat that made your bones recognize danger before your brain could. I swallowed hard, forcing strength into my voice. "What do you want?" He tilted his head slightly, like he was disappointed I didn't already know. "I want things back the way they were," he said. Then he looked at her. "And your job is over." Her breath hitched, not in shock, but in terror. She knew exactly what that meant. I stepped in front of her without thinking. I didn't plan it. It wasn't bravery. It was instinct, human instinct to protect someone being hunted. His expression shifted just slightly into amusement. "Still think she's the victim?" he asked quietly. "She knew what she signed up for." Her voice cracked behind me. "I didn't know everything." His smile vanished. "You knew enough." I felt rage boiling inside me, something stronger than heartbreak. "You manipulated her the same way you manipulated me." He stepped closer. "No," he whispered, eyes locked on mine. "I created both of you." A chill ran through me. Because in that moment, I realized something horrifying. This wasn't about love or loss or jealousy. This was about control. He didn't want a partner. He wanted a product, something he could shape, redesign, and replace. "Here's what's going to happen," he continued. "You're going to leave with me, we're going to talk, and she's going to disappear quietly, just like she was meant to." Her grip tightened behind me, shaking. I took a step forward, meeting his stare head-on. "I'm not going anywhere with you." His jaw twitched, and for the first time, the calm cracked. He took one step toward me. I took one step back and reached into my pocket. His eyes flicked downward. He saw it. The phone, camera recording, live location shared. His entire expression changed, from control to calculation to restrained fury. "You think this is over?" he whispered. I stared back. "No, but for the first time, I'm not afraid." For a moment, just one, something dark flashed in his eyes. Then he turned, walked back into the shadows, and disappeared like he never existed. But his final words echoed behind him. "You can't run from me. You were mine once, and I always finish what I start." The silence afterward felt louder than his threat. She finally exhaled, collapsing onto the bench. "We need help," she whispered. "Real help. He's dangerous." And I knew she was right, because this was no longer a breakup. This was a battle, and I wasn't running anymore. I didn't sleep that night. Every sound, a car door, footsteps in the hallway, the wind brushing the window, made my body tense. Fear didn't leave quickly. It lingered like smoke after a fire. But there was something else now, something stronger than fear, resolve. I had spent years being shaped, corrected, silenced. Now I was done being quiet. The next morning, I sat at the small dining table in my apartment, laptop open, coffee untouched, hands trembling, and began gathering everything. Old text messages, emails, phone records, financial statements that suddenly made sense now. Patterns, control, isolation, piece by piece, the truth assembled itself not just emotionally but legally. He hadn't just been manipulative, he had been calculated, methodical, predatory, and he had left a trail. Around noon, I received a text from an unknown number. "You think paperwork will save you?" I didn't reply, not this time. Instead, I pressed forward message right arrow police detective Ramirez, the contact the officer from the station had given me the night before. Her response came less than a minute later. "Do not engage. I'll be in touch." For the first time in days, I felt protected. Later that afternoon, the woman, the one who had once been his new obsession, sat across from me in my small living room. Her hands shook as she clutched a folder. When she finally opened it, I froze. Inside were documents, contracts, NDAs, digital agreements, all signed with her name. My stomach twisted. What are these?" She swallowed. "He doesn't date," she whispered. "He recruits." The pages outlined something horrifying, a cycle. Love bombing, personal information collection, right arrow psychological dependency, right arrow financial access, right arrow replacement. She was dating him, but she was also working for him without realizing it. "He trains you to think he's the only person who understands you," she said quietly. "And when you're fully dependent emotionally, financially, socially, he takes what he wants and moves on." My chest tightened. That phrase, I had heard it before. "We don't argue, we adjust. If you tell your family everything, you make them part of us. That's dangerous. I know you better than you know yourself." I had thought he was protective. No, he was programming me. I closed my eyes, breathing slowly, not to steady myself, but to stop shaking with anger. "Why did you come back?" I asked her gently. She looked up, tears shining in her eyes. "Because I don't want to be his weapon anymore." Silence filled the room, heavy, honest, painful. And in that silence, something shifted. We weren't rivals. We weren't enemies. We were survivors of the same man. The next day, we met with Attorney Clark, a woman with calm eyes, sharp posture, and a voice that didn't shake even when delivering truth someone didn't want to hear. She listened carefully, silently, as we explained everything. When we finished, she folded her hands. "Legally," she said, "you have more power than you think." She pointed to the screen where the collected evidence sat organized and highlighted. "This isn't just infidelity," she continued. This is coercion. This is manipulation. This is financial exploitation, and depending on state statute," she paused, "this may also qualify as psychological abuse and fraud." My heart pounded. He thought he was untouchable, but the law did not. She leaned forward. "We're going to build a case, quietly, slowly, thoroughly." "Why slowly?" I asked. She gave a thin, knowing smile. "Men like him don't crumble in one blow. They unravel." When we left her office, the sun was setting, streaks of gold and rust painting the sky. Beside me, the woman, the one he tried to mold next, exhaled shakily. "Do you think we can win?" I turned to her. "No," I said softly. She looked startled. I continued. "We're not here to win, we're here to end him." And for the first time since this began, she smiled. The next few days were a whirlwind. We worked quietly but relentlessly. Every message, every file, every shred of proof was documented, time-stamped, and backed up. I barely slept. My hands ached from typing, scrolling, sending encrypted emails to our lawyer, but I didn't stop. Because every second of preparation meant one step closer to freedom and justice. Then came the night I will never forget. It was past midnight when my phone buzzed with a notification from a cloud drive we had set up for the evidence. I opened it to double-check, and my stomach dropped. The files were gone, all of them deleted. My hands shook violently. My mind raced. He had found a way. He was trying to erase the proof, but I wasn't about to let him, not now. I grabbed my laptop and immediately contacted Attorney Clark. "Someone just accessed the evidence folder," I said, voice trembling but steady. Her calm voice was a sharp contrast to my panic. "Good, that's what I expected." I froze. "What do you mean?" she explained. "He thinks he can scare you, erase the evidence, make you doubt yourself, but we've anticipated this. Copies are stored off-site." The files you see deleted were decoys, a trap. A mix of relief and adrenaline surged through me. "He's going to try harder," she warned. "Stay alert. Do not engage him personally. We will proceed through the courts." That night, I didn't sleep. I sat on my balcony, the cold air brushing my face, hands wrapped around a mug of tea I barely touched. I thought about all the lies, all the manipulation, all the nights I doubted myself. He had tried to control me, to scare me, to erase my existence. But he had underestimated me. 3 nights later, the breakthrough came. One of our tech specialists traced a digital footprint, a tiny, nearly invisible breadcrumb that led straight to him. The evidence was undeniable. IP addresses, login times, deleted files. He had left a digital fingerprint he couldn't erase. Attorney Clark smiled grimly when she reviewed it. "This," she said, pointing at the screen, "is the hammer, and now we swing it." The court date was set. The morning of the hearing, I walked into the building with my head held high. The woman who had been manipulated alongside me stood beside me. No fear, no shame, only determination. We were survivors. When he walked in, he tried the same old tactics: charm, arrogance, intimidation. But this time, they didn't work. He wasn't speaking to me in private anymore. He wasn't whispering, touching, controlling. He was facing the truth. Attorney Clark presented the evidence meticulously. Emails, messages, manipulated contracts, photos, financial statements. Every detail showed a pattern of calculated abuse. He tried to defend himself, to twist the narrative, to make it sound like we were exaggerating. But the evidence was overwhelming. The judge looked at him, eyes cold, and said, "Mr. Arman, the court finds substantial proof of coercion, manipulation, and emotional abuse. You will face legal consequences for your actions. Restraining orders are granted, and financial restitution will be determined in the following sessions." I felt a weight lift off me, the kind that comes when the world finally acknowledges your truth. He wasn't free. He couldn't hurt us anymore. The woman beside me squeezed my hand. "We did it," she whispered. "No," I corrected softly. "We survived it." That night, I went home to my mother's house. The streets were quiet. The air smelled faintly of rain and jasmine. I poured a glass of water, sat by the window, and stared out into the night. For the first time in months, I didn't feel fear. I felt clarity, I felt peace, I felt power. And in that quiet moment, I finally understood the lesson life had been forcing me to learn. The people who try to destroy you often reveal your strength instead. Tomorrow, I would start over. Not with him, not with fear, not even with anger. I would start with myself. And the best part? This time, nothing could erase me. The weeks after the court case felt surreal. No more whispers in the dark, no more threatening messages, no more manipulations, just silence. And in that silence, I began to rebuild. I started small, cooking meals for myself that I actually enjoyed, going for long walks without checking behind me, calling friends I had neglected. Every ordinary action felt extraordinary. Even laughter returned, soft at first, then louder, freer, uncontaminated by fear or betrayal. The woman who had been manipulated alongside me became a quiet ally. We never became best friends, but we shared something deeper than friendship, a bond forged through surviving the same storm. One evening, she said softly, "Thank you for trusting me." I nodded. "No," I said. "Thank you for trusting yourself enough to leave him too." My mother was my anchor. She never asked me to move faster than I could, never told me to forgive him, to forget, or to act like nothing had happened. She simply reminded me who I was, a daughter, a sister, a woman who deserved respect. Every night before sleep, I whispered a small prayer of gratitude, for life, for clarity, for the courage to say enough. Months later, I visited my favorite cafe, the one where I had seen them together, the one that once reminded me of betrayal. I sat quietly at the corner table, sipping tea and watching people around me. For a moment, I thought about him, about how he had tried to erase me. Then I smiled, because he hadn't. No one could erase me, and more importantly, I hadn't let him. Healing wasn't instant. It wasn't neat or perfect. It came in small victories, getting up without dread, sleeping through the night, laughing without guilt, trusting myself again. And that, I realized, was freedom. To anyone watching this story unfold, I want you to understand something. Betrayal is painful. Deception is cruel. But your power is in choosing yourself. You cannot control the actions of others. You can only control your response. I chose dignity. I chose justice. I chose peace. So I ask you gently, if someone tried to break you, erase you, or replace you, would you fight for yourself like I did? Think about it, because life doesn't wait for hesitation. And sometimes, the most powerful love you can ever feel is the love you give yourself. If this story touched you, inspired you, or reminded you of your own strength, consider subscribing to hear more real-life stories of courage, survival, and emotional truth. Because we don't just tell stories here, we witness resilience. We honor the human spirit. And we remember, no one can erase who you are unless you let them.